Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2013 MLG Winter Championship, where we're rounding out the round of 32 in the single elimination best of 5 tournament until the finals, which is a best of 7. That means if you win, you move on. If you lose, you're out. March Madness style for you basketball fans out there. Of course, currently watching Polt versus Creator. This is one of the most anticipated matchups of the round of 32. It is time for game number 2, which will be on the map of Daybreak. And Polt is currently up 1-0. Again, commanding play in game number 1. And, you know, Creator, he has to make some adjustments in his play, because I feel like if he plays the same way as he did in game 1, it might be a little bit tough for him. But let's introduce the players. In the top right-hand location, we have the Red Protoss player coming all the way from Korea to participate in this tournament. From Team Prime, he is Creator. And his opponent in the bottom left-hand location, currently a resident of the great state of Texas. He is the blue Terran player, Polt.
And I mean, talking about Creator having to make some adjustments is something that's plagued him in this matchup for quite some time. There's a short pause in the game right now, but hopefully we'll get back to it in just a minute. But talking about Creator, he basically made his name off of creating Protoss versus Terran builds.
I see what you did there.
Yeah. So
you are a clever man.
I am.
I don't give you enough credit sometimes.
So every once in a while I have a moment. But that was a while ago, and what's happened is recently he's really struggled in Terran-heavy tournaments. You notice his biggest breakout performance was at the Blizzard World Finals, right, where he made it so far. But that was a very Protoss-heavy tournament. There really weren't any other world-class Terrans there, at least from Korea. So in the Terran matchup, he struggled if it gets to the late game, because he often, he gets Templars late, and those late game engagements aren't quite his strength. His strength is creating builds that put him in a very great position in the mid game, and we saw that. I felt like he was on even supply 3-base versus 3-base, and for Protoss to be on even supply 3-base versus 3-base against a Terran with an upgrade advantage, that's something that does not happen very often. But Creator, with his genius openings and mid-game play, was able to make it happen. But Polt's late-game drop play and engagements, it was that engagement in the middle that really played a big role.
And that was actually a very interesting engagement there, because it happened about 5 seconds before Storm finished, or 10. I think the battle started 30 StarCraft 2 seconds before it actually finished, and the battle ended like 5 seconds before it finished. So Polt hit that perfect timing window where the Protoss player is investing so much into this additional tech, and it hasn't necessarily paid off for him yet. If you can hit that window as a Terran player, it's usually going to work out very well for you, because imagine if Storm was done, then Polt has to start worrying about splitting his army and not absorbing all the storms from his opponent. Yeah,
Storm plays a huge role in the late game, especially if not even earlier, in Protoss versus Terran. We saw Polt was ready for it, but he didn't ever need to be, right? Storm never really played a factor in that game, but we could see he was ready. He was ready to deal with a Storm push. He had 2 planetaries in the middle of the map to make sure that if he ever got too crazy in his drops and Creator's army got too strong, he would defend a counter push. We also saw that Ghost transition was coming out. He even had Cloak at the end of the game, so he could learn the whole observer sniping, have fun with Cloak Ghost strategy. Polt had so many layers of backup plans. It's not like this guy's just drops. This guy has basically a skill set of everything.
Yeah, the story's going to be here. Can he continue with this? I know he's been obviously practicing a ridiculous amount of Heart of the Swarm. And guys, don't worry, we're trying to get the game remade really quick for you. But, can he continue with this? I'm wondering what can he kind of change up to make game 2 go a little bit better for him? Is it more static D? I don't know if that's the answer. I mean, I feel like...
I honestly feel almost every single drop favored Creator.
Really?
Like, yeah, I feel up until the very end, every single drop almost backfired on Polt. Like, every time Polt would enter drops, he'd leave that drop situation in a slightly worse position than he entered it. It just came down to the fact that, Creator had Storm very late. And in the engagements, Polt had better arcs and better control of those major engagements. So Creator maybe needs to get Storm a little faster, or what he could do is he could tell, I mean, Polt's going for the drops so hard, he could try to counter them even harder. Perhaps,
he He tried to incorporate his own Warp Prism, but that didn't work
He
out
did,
so well.
but if he can totally like slaughter the drops even worse than
Sure.
he did.
And then have that momentum, go for a counterattack right away.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we see Paul had that planetaries there because of that was a potential threat.
Yeah.
But if Creator can get that momentum earlier in the game, he can leverage up maybe a 5 base to 3 advantage. And if you're going to play with late Templar, you've got to have an economic advantage over the Terran player.
Yeah, very well said. It's always a challenge opening up with those Colossi when you're really facing a drop heavy player. That's the advantage of the Terran at that point in the game. They have those medevacs out. They have maybe the not as powerful units in the Marines and Marauders versus the Colossus, but the more mobile units. When you're a Protoss player and you're trying to deal with that crazy drop play, and all you're having in your army is, again, a good amount of supplemental Stalkers, Zealots, Sentries, but the core of your army is going to be those Colossi. You have to worry about sending them in the right direction, making sure they're not going to the wrong place. Like you don't want to stray Colossus roaming out in the middle of the map and getting sniped away. You don't want only one Colossus defending against, 5 Marauders, 10 Marines, something like that, because it's not going to be fun. So there's a lot of things you have to worry about when you're going for Colossi against a drop-heavy Terran. And if you make the wrong decision once, you can find yourself at a big disadvantage.
That's right. It can definitely happen. But here we are. We got the game set up yet again. The start. It's counting down on Daybreak. Game number 2, Creator versus Polt. Can Creator find a way to defeat Polt's, macro harass style?
Yeah, that's going to be the story of this game. And, Daybreak, it's a great map. The one thing about it is your main base is a decent distance away from your third. So it's another situation where a Terran player can and probably will try to take advantage of that with those Ignite Afterburners on the medevacs, with multiple armies going in different directions, really trying to spread you apart, especially if the Protoss player doesn't go for a ridiculous amount of gateway units, but adds in those Colossi. So let's go ahead and introduce these players. In the bottom left-hand location, we have the red Protoss player coming all the way from Korea, representing Team Prime. He's currently down 1-0 in this best-of-5 series. He is Creator. And his opponent in the top right-hand location made a decision a couple months ago to move to Texas from Korea to focus on studying English at the University of Texas. He's currently up 1-0 in this best-of-5. He is Polt.
One thing I think that is going to play a little bit to Creator's favor here on Daybreak is that unlike Acheron Waste, Daybreak doesn't have those spots where you can basically drop everywhere and the ground army has to walk a mile to go where the air distance the bird can fly a couple feet.
Sure.
We can see that especially near the end of the game what Polt did is he would fly his dropships towards Creator's third base, and when Creator's army was there, he'd just fly right past it, drop in the main, and Creator had no way to get his army from his third base to the main because the ground distance was so far. So at least on Daybreak, there's not as many of those spots. I mean, you can bounce between the natural and the third a little bit, but the ground army can still go between those spots fairly efficiently as well. There's no horseshoe type. You're not going to take bases in a horseshoe basically pattern for your ground movement.
Now, people watching at home might be wondering, all right, how the heck do I deal with if I happen to play Polt on ladder, or if I run into him in a tournament? It can happen if you're gold right now. I mean, if you work really hard, you can make that happen. But how do you deal with these drop plays? I'm gonna throw something crazy out there, and you can give me your thoughts. What do you think about potential Stargate openings in the PvT matchup in Heart of the Swarm?
I feel on a map where you've got that horseshoe type pattern like Cloud Kingdom, like Acheron Waste, I guess those are the two main. Newkirk City, if you go to 4 or 5 base, you can get that, but you can take 3 without that. Some of those maps, I think that might be something you should consider if you don't want to do a 2-base timing, because we've seen, especially in this tournament, Feast versus MVP. I mean, MVP ended the game as soon as he got medevacs. He literally just went towards Feast main. Feast had to pull his army in the main because it was MVP's entire army, and then he just went back and dropped in third. And he canceled a third, and then, he feasted down. So on a map like that, you either have to get a lot of Blink Stalkers, but then your army's weak, maybe play the Stargate openings, or maybe to stay on 2 base for a much longer time. It's I don't have an easy answer on those type of maps, but Daybreak's going to be a much easier map, at least as far as that aspect is concerned. And also, what other aspect makes it a little bit easier is the ground distance is quite far. So the Terran player trying to reinforce their attacks is going to take them a little bit longer. The extra 5 seconds to cross the map does play a fairly significant role.
Looks like Polt opening up very similarly. Creator not opening similarly to last game. Polt opening up with that Reaper, but Creator already patrolling with his gateway units at the top of his ramp. Going to be shooing that Reaper away, but the Reaper going to see what it wants. Saw that Nexus underway. So Polt knows exactly what's going on. Creator adding on that gas very soon after that Nexus, of course. The kind of point of that is, for you newer players, you get saturated on one gas, and you fully saturate the middle line, and then you save up until you build that Nexus, and then you get that gas right after, just to optimize everything. So Creator, obviously, doing all the right things at this point. And back home, Polt, again, that safety bunker is down. Reaper's still trying to be proactive. You do not want to lose this Reaper, though, so you want to stay away from that Stalker. But this Reaper, look out for it to be very efficient as the game continues. Even just a glimpse of a tech structure could be huge for Polt.
Definitely. If you think about the number of scans that one Reaper can save you, you can think about how valuable that Reaper actually is. Of course, you do have a few less Marines in your opening, so this Militia Port can be annoying. It looks like Polt's just going to say, okay, you can pound on Depot a bit. Now he's going to grab 3 Marines. 3 Marines is the right number to drive that Militia Port away.
54 HP.
Oh.
Gotta be a little bit careful.
Oh, now the mine's gonna come there, and then it's gonna be a halfly dead Depot that's gonna be sitting there taunting Creator for the rest of the game.
Yes, he's gonna just left it there.
Yeah, he did, and he's gonna want. Looks like the mine's gonna move.
Yes,
of course, thinking that it's more likely that core would head towards the middle line or an Oracle or something would. So, having that early mine position in the middle line is always a good idea, just because of the potential. You know, well, what does it cost you, right? If you're getting the mine anyway, why not park it there until you want to send it on the attack?
So Creator going for a relatively fast Robo once again, which kind of leads us to think he will go for the faster Colossi, getting an Observer out first. However, actually this is going to be his second Observer on the field. I love to see Protoss players really make a lot of those observers, especially against a player like Polt. That could be one thing to at least help a little bit. If you know your opponent is going for a drop at the main base, obviously you can prepare a little bit better. If you scout your opponent and you're seeing a starport with a reactor, you're seeing a lot of barracks, you can kind of realize, all right, he's probably sending a lot of Marines Marauders, perhaps some drops my way. So, you know, I like this decision for Creator, going up to 2 observers, maybe even 3 if I'm looking at this.
Third observer is in production right now. Creator going with the style that he made famous. Different from last game, he went for the very fast, Colossi tech with a single forge. This time he's doing his trademark build, the fast double forge, crazy upgrades with a ton of observers, so you never get caught off guard by drops. A very, very safe, solid opening. The question is, where he's going to go forward from here. Is he going to try to take a third base with just upgrades and basic units? Is he going to attack for the Colossus just a little bit later than he did last game with a more upgrade-focused approach? Or is he even going to go for the Templar attack?
You saw Creator's Observer was sniped away by that scan from Polt. Now, he was able to scout enough to know that there wasn't a starport on the field, which obviously, again, it's all about when are those medevacs coming out. If you don't see a starport, you can say, all right, there's a timer, and each of these guys has, they know exactly how long to expect for those medevacs. But Polt going for a little bit of an earlier timing here that looks to be a little bit scary. I mean, it has some Widow Mines mixed in.
Very Marauder heavy, too.
Yeah, lots of Marines, lots of Marauders, and we'll have to see how much damage this can do. But again, Creator has that Militia Core back home. We'll be able to use that Potion Overcharge.
Polt again going for that double Tech Lab Marauder focus opening. No concussive shells yet, though, so Creator will be a micro against it. But his Armament cut off guard, pulling it back just at the right time, so you can use Photon Overcharge if you need to on that next.
There's the Guardian Shield and the Force Field's coming down here from Creator, trying to get a convincing win. The Widow Mine's going to be burrowing down, taking some shots at, looks like a Zealot and a Stalker there got taken out. Polt continuing to micro away, and Creator doing a great job. That's a Time Warp trying to prevent these Marauders from retreating, and Creator turning Polt away from his front door.
A great defense by Creator, you know, kind of saying, Polt, you know, Polt, those retro no medevac timing attacks are outdated for a reason. It's because I'm going to lay down perfect force fields and I'm going to squash your army. That's exactly what he did. Now Creator with a nice lead here, going to push across the map. Polt should be able to defend. He's got the bunker, has a ton of production, but Polt has no third command center started yet, and 11 minutes into the game is a time when Terran often wants to have that third base on the way.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really interesting push. I feel like Creator, if he did the same build as last game, that push from Polt might have been a little bit more effective because you're going for the faster Colossi, and that's one of those timings where the Colossus is like 20 seconds away from finishing.
Or there's one with no range and you're Marauder heavy.
Exactly. So, you know, I like the idea there from Polt, but Creator he kind of changed up his strategy a little bit. Again, going for the double forge, really prioritizing a lot of gateway units, even getting an Immortal on the field, which is great against a heavy Marauder composition. And Creator was able to, shove that push away. It was a great defense there from Creator.
Absolutely stellar defense here. Polt's now going to go into his third base, but I mean, the big story here is going to be the upgrades. Remember, Creator invested so early into that. Polt delayed his upgrade. He not only delayed his third base and he delayed his medevacs, but he also delayed his upgrades, all to get that timing push that really didn't do any damage. So he's sitting at 1 attack, no armor, just now starting his second armor. Creator's already halfway done with 2-2. So once those finish, he's going to be at 4 upgrades, 2 attack and 2 armor, versus Polt will only have 1 at that time with just a single attack.
All right, Polt coming across the map here. He has 4 medevacs above his army, also a factory floating close by. We've seen players land that factory and start building a Widow Mine and using that to help supplement. But Polt going straight for that third base. I feel like Raiders should have enough to deal with. It's only 1 sentry here though. But Polt is not going to have near enough to want to feel comfortable actually engaging there. Again, back home, he's taking the third base. So, this army can easily load up and retreat. Not a huge danger coming out to the middle of the map. And if you're scaring your Protoss a little bit, maybe you can get them to make a misclick. Maybe you can get them to delay something because they're worrying about your push. That's going to be worth it because you can always just back up. Go back home. You have 3 bases. You're building up your infrastructure. It's not a huge risk for Polt to be on the map right now.
We can see Creator very well aware of Polt's love for drop play. He has a cannon in his main. The Mothership Core is back there. He's photon overcharge. A small squad units as well, while his main army defends the area between his natural and third base. Creator also warping in a segment of Zealots there. Polt's going to spot it, so now he can come and cut those units off. Those were intended to do some nice damage, cut off some rally units, get some good cost for some trades. But as is, they're going to be torn apart without accomplishing much. It's a couple Marine kills. Creator, though, his tech is still looking great. He's finished 2-2. Colossi range is almost done. Templar Archives is almost done. He could do a really strong charge out Archon Colossi timing. And he could even potentially time it right when 3-3 finishes, or maybe even just off a 2-2, well before, if he does it off 2-2, well before Polt even gets 2 of either upgrade done.
Creator just lost 2 pylons at the top of the map. He's going to be in a pretty heavy supply block, making 4 pylons right now. Let's hope that doesn't come back to haunt him. But look at this. Polt is going to be trying to flank Creator here with those Marines and Marauders just outside of Creator's natural expansion, and Polt's going to try to sandwich in from both sides as Creator caught off guard here.
Oh, 1 Colossus almost goes down. The other army jumps back into the main. Photon Cannon buys some time for a Zealot Warp, and Creator's main army is pushing Polt's main force back across the top. Great defense by Creator. I mean, he actually didn't lose a single Colossi.
Yep.
He didn't even. He lost like a Photon Cannon and like 2 units. I mean, not that Polt lost anything either, but that was a very well set up attack by Polt, and Creator's really caught in an awkward position. He was able to deal with it very well.
Yeah, great decision making there. Great crisis management from Creator. And now, honestly, I feel like he can almost feel comfortable, even extending his bases if he wanted. But he's going to hold off on that for now, prioritizing, getting additional Colossi on the field, additional High Templar, additional production, because the last thing you want to do, is take a greedy 4th and then all of a sudden put yourself in a position you don't want to be in if your opponent tries to take advantage of the fact that your army is going to be a little bit more exposed. So Creator going to stay bunkered down right now, turtle up a little bit, and now going to try to extend out to the middle of the map and take that 4th base. But Polt's entire army is in the middle there, ready and waiting.
Polt's got his army split up, a small squad at the bottom, a larger. That Nexus did not last very long. Of course, a quick cancel there by Creator. 1 Colossus goes down over the top. Polt makes a move. Meanwhile, another small force heading towards the natural. Creator, though, a great army split up here. Just the appropriate amount of units to defend both sides of the equation.
Even targeting down a medevac there. Polt caught a little bit off guard here on the top side of the map, trying to split up those units. Medevac's overhead. Need to try to get behind those Marines so they're not vulnerable to the Archons. But Creator doing a great job here. The Colossi shredding away this Bio army. Again, no Vikings here in this composition from Polt. He's going to try to load up, ignite those afterburners, get out of there. But I feel like he needed those Vikings in that fight. When there's 3 Colossi and you're telling your Bio to go fight those huge Colossi, not only they're probably not going to want to do that, but it's not going to be fun for you. You have to have those Vikings. They are the proper counter for those Colossi.
Not having the Vikings, he lost several medevacs. Creator's got a 30 supply advantage, and he's almost at 3-3. If he can time his attack perfectly, he could hit when he's 3-3 against Polt's 1-1 with a dominant supply advantage. This could be Creator's way to get back in the series.
This is like as optimal of a push as it can get. He never took that 4th base. He can use all those resources on this army. storming here into Polt's 4th base. This planetary fortress is not going to get completed. Creator doing so much damage, sending in more and more gateway reinforcements. SCV is getting shredded apart, trying to repair this planetary, but it looks like it should go down. Creator has a 165 to 69 supply advantage. There's the GG from Polt, and Creator ties up the series 1-1. Great adjustments in that game.
Very, very solid adjustments. You know, he knew basically not to get into that super late game situation. He knew he had to get, you know, he built up advantages by defending drops well, investing in the late game, while Creator invested in the early game timing. And then Creator got the advantage, and then he struck before Polt could equalize and eventually catch up and upgrades. A well-executed game by Creator. This has turned into a great and closely matched series.
I mean, it's exactly what you were talking about in the last game, what you talked about just now. You know, Creator getting that convincing victory that he needed and then pushing it immediately across the map. It was a situation where he had those 3 Colossi. Polt didn't have any Vikings to deal with those in that initial engagement on Creator's side of the map, as Creator was, it might have even been faking a 4th. It might have been one of those things where he's like taking a 4th, but then he's like, wait, I just killed a lot of his army. I'm just going to go try to kill him. And imagine if that push was like 5 to 10 seconds later, if a few more Vikings got out, a few more units got out, if that planetary fortress was finished, that could have been a lot different. I mean, StarCraft 2 is a game of very small timing windows, and Creator able to turn a nice victory of a battle into just countering and just crushing his opponent.
Definitely, that's very, very important. You can win a battle, but if you don't take advantage of the situation you're in afterwards, you can't find that advantage. Step away. Creator not going to let that happen that game. Took that game too. Tied up 1-1. We'll be right back with Game 3 after a short break.